Have you ever realized how your priorities begin to shift as you grow older? The things that once seemed crucial, like having a big group of friends, may no longer feel as important. And here is the reality. After turning 70, you might not actually need friends in the same way. That may sound unexpected, but once you take a deeper look, it starts to make sense. Choosing independence and focusing on your own well-being can turn out to be one of the smartest choices you make. In this video, we will look at 6 reasons why friendships might not be as essential in your later years as they used to be. You will see how your perspective, personal freedom, and even your health can benefit once you stop stressing over friendships that no longer bring real value. This is not about being alone. It is about living on your own terms, without the extra pressure and obligations that can sometimes come with social connections. Watch through to the end, because letting go of the need to maintain certain friendships might not just feel freeing, it could also shift how you view yourself and your later years in a truly positive way. Let's begin. Number 1. You no longer feel the need to prove anything to anyone. One major reason why friendships might not be necessary after 70 is that you have already gone through the part of life where social approval seemed important. Think back to when you were younger. How often did your friendships revolve around proving yourself, trying to fit in, or keeping up appearances? Whether it was impressing coworkers, staying active in social groups, or making sure you were part of every gathering, there was always this subtle pressure to be seen and accepted. But now you are at a point in life where that kind of approval is no longer needed. You have already made your mark, and what other people think does not carry the same weight anymore. At this stage, you understand that real fulfillment is not something others give you. It comes from within. There is no longer a reason to seek out friendships just for the sake of image, reputation, or social status. You already know who you are, and you do not need anyone else to validate that. Younger people often spend a lot of time concerned about how others view them, whether they are liked, respected, or accepted. But when you reach your later years, you come to see that none of that truly defines your value. You set your own worth, and having a group of people around you is no longer necessary to prove it. Take someone like Harold, for example. He is in his early 70s and spent most of his life building a successful career. He was constantly surrounded by people, colleagues, acquaintances, and so-called friends. But many of those relationships were more about convenience than true connection. After he retired, those friendships started to fade. At first, he felt the urge to stay in touch, to keep those relationships going. But then he had a moment of clarity. Why continue to invest time and energy into friendships that only existed because of work? Why hold on to relationships that were never really meaningful in the first place, instead of clinging to old habits? Harold turned his attention inward. He began spending more time on personal hobbies, revisiting old passions, and most importantly, stopped trying to impress others. Without the pressure to maintain those old friendships, he actually felt more at ease. No more forced conversations, no more social expectations, and no more worrying about being liked. He was simply living for himself, and for the first time in years, that felt right. And that is the point. When you stop needing others to approve of you, you begin to realize how much effort went into friendships that were not truly fulfilling. You really do not need. You no longer have to prove anything to anyone. You do not need to meet anyone else's expectations. The only person you are accountable to now is yourself. Number 2, peace becomes more meaningful than socializing. As the years go by, something starts to shift. Peace begins to feel more valuable than being social. In your younger days, being around others might have seemed essential. The events, the conversations, the social buzz, it all felt like a sign of a full life. But over time, you start to value something deeper, quiet, not just silence, but the kind of calm that helps you truly relax, free from drama, obligations, or social pressure. Even the best friendships often carry certain responsibilities. There are messages to reply to, invites to consider, and unspoken rules to keep in touch. It is not that friendships are bad, but after a certain point, they can start to feel like more work than reward. The reality is, you no longer need to keep up with others. You do not need to feel responsible for being available every time someone reaches out. You have reached a point in life where your time is yours to use, and you get to decide how you want to use it. Take Margaret, for instance. She is 74 and used to be very socially active. lunches, calls, holiday events. Her schedule was always packed, but over time she began to notice that many of these moments felt more exhausting than enjoyable. The conversations became repetitive, the same stories were repeated, and some friends only reached out to vent or gossip. What once felt like joyful company slowly turned into a tiring routine. One day, Margaret decided to take a step back. She stopped feeling bad about turning down invites she was not interested in. She no longer rushed to reply to every message. Instead, she welcomed the quiet. She discovered that the time she once used to manage friendships could now be spent doing what she genuinely enjoyed. She began taking longer walks, spent time outdoors, and finally read the books she had put off for years. Most of all, she came to see that being alone did not mean being lonely. It meant being at peace. That is what makes this phase of life so special. You do not have to keep filling your days with chatter or activity to feel connected. You can enjoy your own presence without needing approval from others. You can choose calm instead of pressure, stillness instead of noise. So, if you have ever felt bad for stepping away from social commitments, remember this: you are not pulling away from life. You are moving toward a different kind of happiness, one that comes from within, one that does not rely on anyone else. And that kind of peace, it only gets better with age. If you are still here and finding this helpful, comment number 2 below to let me know. And if you have not subscribed yet, go ahead and do that. Make sure you also turn on the bell so you do not miss any future videos. Now let us continue. Number 3. Fewer friendships lead to fewer disappointments. One of life's toughest lessons is learning that not everyone you call a friend is truly there for you. Over the years, you have probably gone through it. People who once felt close slowly drifting away, friends who became distant when you needed them most, or relationships that ended up being one-sided. And by the time you reach 70, you begin to see that having fewer friendships does not just mean fewer social obligations, it also means fewer letdowns. Friendships, no matter how strong, often come with expectations. There is an unspoken rule to stay in touch, to be available, to offer support. But what happens when those expectations are not returned? Disappointment. You call, but they never return the call. You make the effort, but they do not respond the same way. You end up giving more than you get back. And at this point in life, do you really need that kind of emotional strain? The answer is no. Look at William. He is 78 and has watched many friendships come and go. Some ended on their own, while others faded when he realized he was the only one trying. People he had known for years suddenly seemed too busy, too distracted, or just not interested in staying connected. At first it hurt. He questioned himself. What had he done wrong? Why did these people seem to forget about him? But eventually it became clear. He had not changed. He had just stopped accepting relationships that were not two-sided. That is the point. When you stop believing that you need a wide circle of friends, you also stop feeling disappointed when people let you down. You no longer get upset when someone forgets to check in. You do not feel bad when a friendship fades. Instead, your focus shifts to the most important person in your life, yourself. This does not mean cutting yourself off from everyone. It simply means choosing quality over quantity. Rather than holding onto a list of old contacts, you value the relationships that really matter. The ones that bring joy and do not feel like a burden to maintain. That might be a family member, a lifelong friend, or just a deeper relationship with yourself. Those are the ones that count. So, if you have ever felt that friendships brought more stress than happiness, remind yourself, it is okay to take a step back. It is okay to prefer simplicity over stress, calm over emotional weight. You do not need a long list of friends to feel satisfied. You just need to release the ones who were never really present to begin with. Number 4. Your time becomes more valuable as you grow older. It becomes clear that time is your most valuable asset. In your younger days, it might have felt like there was always more of it. More time for friends, more time for social activities, more time to think about who was in your life. But by the time you reach 70, your view changes. You start to see that every hour, every day, every moment truly matters. And when you realize how valuable your time is, you naturally become more careful about how you use it. Friendships, even the good ones, take time and energy. There are calls to return, visits to plan, and events to attend. And while some relationships are absolutely worth it, many are just habits we carry forward. Connections we maintain more out of duty than joy. At this point in life, you have earned the right to ask yourself, is this how I want to spend my time? Does this friendship make my life better? Or does it just feel like another thing on my to-do list? Think about Richard, a man in his early 80s, who once enjoyed a busy social life filled with dinners, group events, and frequent phone chats. But over time, things began to feel different. The long talks that once felt enjoyable started to feel exhausting. Social events that used to be fun began to feel more like chores. One afternoon, as he sat through yet another lunch filled with small talk and complaints, he came to a clear conclusion. He no longer wanted to spend his time this way. So he made a choice. He stopped saying yes just because it was expected and started saying no when he simply did not feel like going out. Instead of using hours to catch up on gossip or listen to complaints, he began spending his time on what truly made him happy: reading, walking, learning new things, and enjoying his own peaceful company. And surprisingly, he did not feel lonely. In fact, he felt more content than ever because he was finally using his time in ways that meant something to him, not in ways others expected. That is the point. When you let go of friendships that no longer serve you, you gain something more valuable. Time for yourself, time to focus on what you love, time to enjoy life at your own pace, time to look after your own joy rather than trying to meet other people's expectations. So if you ever wonder whether you should keep certain friendships going, ask yourself this: is this really the best use of my time? Because at this stage of life, your time is fully yours. You have earned the right to use it however you want. If you are still watching this video and finding these thoughts helpful, please type number 4 in the comments to let me know you are here. And if you have not subscribed yet, I suggest you do and turn on the bell so you never miss a video. Your support helps us continue to create thoughtful content meant to inform and inspire. Now, let us move on. Number 5. Real companionship comes from within. A common myth about aging is that you need a big circle of friends to feel happy. But the truth is, the most important connection you will ever have is the one you build with yourself. By the time you reach 70, you have spent decades growing, learning, and changing. You understand yourself better than anyone else can. And with that understanding comes a powerful truth: you are enough. For much of life, we are told to look for happiness in other people. We are taught that being social is the key, and that being alone is something to avoid. But being alone is not the same as being lonely. In fact, many of the happiest people in their later years are those who have come to appreciate being by themselves, not as isolation, but as a chance for reflection, growth, and calm. Take Eleanor, for example. She is 76 and once believed she needed to be surrounded by others to feel complete. She filled her days with plans, checked in on friends often, and kept herself constantly busy. But over time, she noticed something. Even though she was always with people, she often felt tired instead of uplifted. She came to realize that many of her friendships were based more on habit than true connection. And more than that, she noticed she was always changing herself just to fit into conversations, just to keep up with social expectations, just to avoid feeling left out. Then one day, she stopped. She chose to spend time with herself the same way she would with a close friend, doing what she enjoyed, listening to her thoughts, and simply being in her own company. She took long walks without feeling like she needed to call anyone. She sat in cafes with a book rather than making small talk. Her evenings were quiet, filled with reflection rather than worrying about keeping up with friendships just for the sake of it. And to her surprise, she felt lighter, happier, and more at ease than she had in years. This is something many people overlook. Real companionship is not about how many people you surround yourself with. It is about how at ease you are with your own presence. When you stop depending on others for attention, approval, or conversation, you gain a kind of freedom that most people never reach. You stop needing outside distractions to stay busy. You become your own source of comfort, knowledge, and satisfaction. And the amazing part? When you genuinely enjoy your own company, the right people tend to appear in your life on their own. People who respect your boundaries, share your values, and bring calm instead of pressure. So if you have ever feared that walking away from some friendships would leave you feeling lonely, Remember this: the best company you will ever have is already within you. And once you recognize that, you will see that you were never truly alone at all. Number 6. Letting go can lead to a more satisfying life. One of the most freeing things you can do after 70 is to let go. Let go of the pressure to keep friendships that no longer bring happiness. Let go of the idea that your social life defines who you are. Let go of the belief that being by yourself means being lonely. Because the moment you release those ideas, you allow yourself to live a simpler, freer, and far more satisfying life. A lot of people hold on to friendships out of habit, even when those connections no longer add anything meaningful. They go to events they do not enjoy, answer calls because they feel they should, and keep up appearances simply because that is what they have always done. But what if none of that was necessary? What if you gave yourself the freedom to step back from friendships that feel like effort, and instead focused only on what truly makes you happy? Think of James, a man in his late 70s who once believed staying socially busy was the key to aging well. He worked hard to stay in touch with old friends, even when those relationships felt distant or shallow. He kept his schedule full with social plans, assuming that staying busy meant staying content. But then one day, he saw things differently. He was not enjoying it. The conversations felt the same. The gatherings felt like routines. And deep down, he felt more tired than connected. So he made a new decision. He stopped forcing friendships that no longer meant much. He turned his attention to what truly made him feel good. He spent more time outside, looked after his health, learned new things, and welcomed the freedom of no longer having to meet anyone's expectations. And through all that, he found something he did not expect. He felt lighter, happier, and more at peace than he had in a long time. That is what letting go can do. It does not mean shutting down yourself off from the world. It means making space for what genuinely fulfills you. It is about realizing that your happiness does not depend on how many people are around, but on how well your life matches what you truly want. And here is what changes when you accept this mindset. You stop focusing on who is in your life and start paying attention to what brings you joy. You begin to notice and value the small things. Waking up to a peaceful morning, enjoying your hobbies without interruptions, and feeling calm with your own thoughts. You come to understand that real satisfaction does not come from maintaining friendships just because you feel you should. It comes from living in a way that feels real and true to you. So if you ever feel like you need to do more to keep up with friendships, ask yourself this: does this really make me happy, or am I just keeping it going out of habit? Because once you allow yourself to let go, life starts to feel easier, lighter, and more rewarding in ways you may not have imagined. If you are still watching and finding these points helpful, please comment the number 6 below so I know you are still here. And if you have not subscribed yet, I suggest you do, and turn on notifications so you do not miss any future videos. Your support helps us keep making content that informs and encourages. Final thoughts as we end this video. Take a moment to think about what we have gone over. The idea that you do not need friends after 70 is not about cutting yourself off. It is about freedom, letting go of unnecessary expectations, choosing peace instead of pressure, and living a life that feels right to you. By now, you have seen how stepping away from friendships that no longer feel meaningful can actually lead to more joy, more free time, and more satisfaction than you might have expected. What stood out to you the most? Which of these reasons made the biggest impact on you? Maybe you have already started letting go of friendships that felt like more effort than joy. Maybe you have realized how much you enjoy being on your own when you give yourself the space. Or maybe this video helped you see things differently, that it is perfectly fine to make yourself the priority. We would love to hear your thoughts. Leave a comment and share one thing you learned today and how you plan to use it. Your thoughts really matter to us, so feel free to share. Reading your comments gives us a lot of motivation and support. If you liked this video and found it useful, please like, subscribe, and share it. Your support helps us keep making content that informs and inspires you. Thanks for watching, and we look forward to seeing you in the next video.